Crop sensor cameras for wildlife photography are just not talked about enough. This is the Canon R7 in 2024, and here's what this camera is capable of. Alright, so all that footage you saw was shot with this little camera here, the Canon R7. It's a crop sensor with a 1.6 crop sense factor on the Canon. It is a truly amazing camera for wildlife. As you can see, I got some amazing photos, some amazing video. This is only $1,100 used. I think it's a camera that should be in every wildlife photographer camera bag, if I said that. Wildlife photographer's camera bag. Anyway, there's a few reasons I like this camera, and it's lightweight. I mean, look at that, fits in the palm of my hand. I got the footage you saw with all this because it's got an amazing autofocus system. It isn't perfect. I don't think any of Canon's autofocus systems are perfect, but this thing has got me so many photos that I probably wouldn't capture with a regular DSLR in today's world. And not only can it get me some awesome photos, with a flip of a switch, I can go right into video mode and capture some amazing videos. It shoots 4K 60 frames per second, or you could shoot 1080 120, which is pretty impressive. Most of the footage I shot was 1080 120 frames per second. And I did mention this is a cheaper lens, but I want you guys to know I did not buy it. Nobody sent it to me, but I did rent it through lensrentals.com. I do have an affiliation with them. If you want to look for a camera body or a lens that you want to rent and maybe try before you buy it, check out the link in the description. I have a discount code, Kris15, and you could get a lot of things from Lens Rentals. They definitely made it easy for me to get this before my trip here in Katmai National Park, which is where I'm photographing all of these amazing bears. I had such an amazing experience. If you're a wildlife photographer and you do bears, come to Katmai National Park. Check out my friend Scott Stone. He is hosting this camp. Made it so easy. I just let the footage speak for itself. If it's a little bit out of your price range, Canon also offers the Canon R10. Very similar in terms of autofocus, some of the video specs, but the difference is you're gonna get a smaller battery that's not as long lasting, and your buffer size is not going to be as much as this. One of the issues I have with the R7 is already the buffer size. So if the R10 is gonna be slower, shooting in fast frame rates, you need to only hold the shutter down for 2 or 3 nanoseconds and capture 3 or 4 photos at a time. You don't wanna run up the buffer because you might miss a moment if the buffer needs to buffer. And that did happen to me a couple times, especially switching from photo to video. I just lay on the shutter and then try to switch the video. It'd take about 3 or 4 seconds for me to be able to shoot again. One of the things I do like is it does offer redundant card slots. That doesn't affect the photo to video buffer for some reason, even if you shoot separately, but you're still gonna get some awesome footage with this thing just because of the autofocus system. Battery life is amazing. I actually haven't changed the battery at all. I've been here in 3 days, and this wasn't the camera body I've been using the most. My main camera is the Canon R5, but I've been shooting this pretty much simultaneously with the R5. Let's say I shot the R5 80% of the time, and I use this 20% of the time. 3 days, still has, how many bars of battery does this have? 1 bar left, so it's getting ready to die. But that's still pretty impressive for me to shoot that and get all that footage on 1 battery. Okay, so speaking of the Canon R5, when I first rented this camera, I thought for sure it was literally the exact thing as a Canon R5, and the only difference was it was crop sensor, but I did notice some subtle differences. The on and off switch button is a little bit different. I don't really care for the on to video switch. I prefer the Canon R5 because it's got the electronic mode switcher, which means you can shoot photos and then switch to video with just by pressing the record button. I shoot photos, and then with the Canon R5 I press record. I'm shooting 4K 120 frames per second. It's one of the most amazing features I've ever seen on a camera body. But you know, just taking your finger and moving it to flip to video mode, it's not too bad. It's definitely made me lose my framing a little bit sometimes, but other than that, it really does work pretty good. I thought it was like the Canon R5. It's more like the Canon R6, maybe the Canon R6 Mark II. I haven't used that camera body, but I know that it has a dedicated on, off, and video switch. Some of the other things that kind of caught me off guard was the autofocus on the star and this button here is in the same position. It's not in the same position as the Canon R5. The Canon R5 is like one here, one here, and one here. And just from shooting over the past 4 years with that setup, I've gotten used to it. I'm sure if I only use this for the next 30 days, I'd probably get used to this as well. But that's just some of the gripes that I have. It's really a seamless, user-friendly experience, and the final issue I just don't like. So the Canon R5 has 3 dials. I use the 3 dials for shutter speed, ISO, and aperture, but on this camera you need to just press the ISO button first and then move the aperture button to change ISO. I know it sounds stupid, but I love just not thinking about it, and just I can keep my viewfinder to my eye and I could just change some things right away. So that's the only gripe that I have that kind of would limit me from getting this camera. If you're a beginner or even a professional, this is such a great camera to have in your back pocket, especially if you pair it with the 100-400. Subscribe to the channel. I'm going to show you some footage with the 100-400 you can get for $500, and paired with the R7, it's pretty dang good. Like, really impressive. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, like, it's good. I'm impressed. One of the great things is the R7 is an RF, so it takes not only the RF-S lenses that Canon offers for their crop sensor cameras, but also takes RF full frame lenses, and with the adapter you could use old Canon EF lenses or old Tamron or Sigma EF lenses. So you can really just kind of use this as a budget camera and still capture and just shoot like a pro. Like, it is so much better than any of those Amazon kits that come with all these weird cheap lenses. Don't ever fall for those cheaper camera packages that come with a crop sensor camera with a wide angle lens and a telephoto lens and all these camera batteries. And I hate to say this, but it truly sucks. Like, you're gonna want to shoot on your iPhone before you want to learn how to use those cameras, because they're just not sharp. The lenses aren't going to be sharp. The camera bodies aren't going to have this amazing autofocus that the R7, the R10, the R5 has. That's just one of the big things. Like, if you have a camera that has good autofocus and with a lens that's sharp enough, you'll be happy. Like, you'll want to get out more. Second you struggle, you're going to give up, and you're never going to want to learn to improve, because there's nothing to improve. You're going to just say, wow, I wasted $600 on this camera kit and I got to sell it and get what I really need. When we think of crop sensor cameras, when I think of them anyway, I think of cameras that just aren't capable of anything. I think they have high noise, so the photos after 400 ISO aren't going to be usable. I think of terrible night pictures, and I also think of just this horrible unsharpness that they offer. And I don't know why I think that, because that's an old school way of thinking. These new cameras paired with new features like Lightroom denoise AI, guys, you're not gonna have the ISO issues. It's gonna come out clean. If you don't believe me, I have a link in the description with Canon R7 raw photos throw them in the Lightroom, edit them, use the denoise. I always set everything to 48 in the denoise program. Guys, they're gonna come out clean. If someone says, well, would you get this camera? The answer is yes, and that's that. I love it. I only have one camera body right now, the R5. I just sold my R6 because I'm planning on getting the R1 or the R5 Mark II. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna get this right now, just simply because I'm trying to save money for the R1. So who is this camera body for? Well, let's say who it's not for. I don't think it's for a landscape photographer, because you wanna really invest in a full frame camera body, because a full frame camera body allows you to use wider lenses like the Canon 10 to 20 millimeter or the Canon 15 to 35 and actually get 10 or 15 millimeters. If you use the Canon 10 millimeter on here, it's really going to end up being 16 millimeters, which is okay. But if you use a 15 millimeter lens, it's going to end up being like 24 millimeters with the 1.6 crop factor. So if you're a landscape photographer, I definitely might hold off on that. But wildlife photography, I mean, guys, I hope the footage spoke for itself in the beginning of this video. I think that this is something that is going to blow your mind away, especially if you never shot with a mirrorless camera. The autofocus is so reliable, and if you're a wildlife photographer and looking to get your first camera or upgrade, R7, man, I'm telling you guys, trust me. I say this, and then the R7 Mark II probably will come out. That would... Let me know if you guys ever shot with the Canon R7. If you want to rent this lens, it's very cheap on lens rentals. Like I said, link in the description for that. That's all I have. Let me know what you guys think. And with that, I'm going to leave you with this video right here. I just used something way more expensive, the Canon RF 100 to 300 millimeter, and it was a super duper amazing lens. That's all I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.